finally live with the Heckin, formerly Holy Jalapenos, but definitely more Heckin Habaneros lately.
Wow, what a sellout. He has ad.
We'll have you guys introduce yourselves from bottom to top on the Discord. So boring. We're gonna start with you, dog.
What am I like? Is there a template?
Yeah, like just your tag. Even though I kind of already did that part for you, but for the rest of you, the
Yeah.
tag, the role on the team, and maybe a cute fun fact or a favorite hero, or I don't know. Keep it interesting. First day of class.
Okay. I'm boring. I play main tank and I'll ball one trick. You next, Frosty.
My name is Frosty. I'm the DPS player for Habaneros, and I'm a washed-up Genji one-trick.
Hell yeah.
True.
I'm Johnny Robot, DPS. People mainly know me for Doomfist, but I play other characters, I promise.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, my name is Moose. I play main support. Tough luck and tailwind reject, but it's okay. Habanero. Oh, and Lucio OTP, of course.
I was hoping you're still like bear the needle or something.
I mean, that's just not true.
No, this is correct information.
Okay. So, I'm Needle. I was on Jalapenos last season. I'm a flex support player, but I can play like every support besides Mercy. I don't play Mercy because Mercy's a terrible character. So Moose gets stuck on Mercy Jail when we play Pharah. Because true Moose. And that's it for me.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll steer it over more towards the team, right? So what happened to make you guys more Heckin rather than Holy, and bring yourselves up to the Discord tier?
I think everyone just climbed like crazy. That's pretty much what happened. Like Needle and Boring hit, like, I don't know how high you guys hit, but you guys hit really high. And
Barely masters.
hopefully still masters.
I would just like to clarify that Needle is indeed boosted.
No.
He threw one of my games on Anubis.
Only
You
on the
threw my game on Anubis,
DPS.
Frosty. What are you talking about? Okay. So I peaked 3.7, like starting as a gold player in Harmony, so that was pretty fun. But everyone on the Jalapenos like climbed a lot of SR. Like Mallard hit GM, I hit Masters. Torb was not quite Masters at the end of the season, but he was really close. And Johnny, Meebles, Bork, they all hit diamonds. I'm forgetting something. No, I'm not. Beth is still in plats, unfortunately.
Unfortunate.
But I mean, she gets to carry the Jalapenos torch for next season.
I think the only reason why Beth is in plat though is because she has a life and she has a ton more work requirements, right?
Yeah,
like if Beth could designate time to this as much as we did, she could easily hit GM. That's what I believe.
Yeah, let's be honest. Anybody that plays Overwatch and is Diamond Plus has no life.
Okay.
That's kind of mean, bro.
Are you saying just
Nah,
because you're
I like
plat?
that.
Even I do not have a life. I'm being honest. All I do is play Overwatch. And I'm
And
still
throw
proud
my
of it.
comp games.
Okay.
Yeah.
You throw mine.
Alright, sure. Let's go with that. But yeah, I don't know. So for the name, I guess, the Heckin Habaneros, we were originally. What?
That was
Oh,
Bork.
it was Bork. It was Bork's idea. We were coming up with a bunch of different like adjectives to rhyme with habaneros because we didn't want to just be holy habaneros because it's too much like holy jalapenos. And Bork was just like, "What about the Heckin Habaneros fam?" And we were like, "Yeah, let's go with that." And then we became the Heckin Habaneros. So big shout out to Bork for coming up with the name and making the logo. Absolutely amazing logo.
Nice.
True.
That's cool.
True.
I like it when teams are capable of making their own logos. No shot on Cav though, because Cav can make some really cool logos. But
Yeah, for sure.
I like it when everyone takes a little bit of their team into their own hands in that regard. So, walk me through the team creation process.
Oof.
Not my meta, Pepe.
So there was this team called Not My Meta, and we were planning on entering Discord tier. It was gonna be Torb only, who is boring. They're the same player. He's just changing his name. And then also Climate on off tank, and on DPS it was Frosty and Bagel, and for support it was me and Trash Rodent, who was on Meteors last season, plays off tank for Illusion now, and there's also a Chimanzi on off tank as well, and we were gonna. Okay. And we were gonna join Discord tier, but then there were like complications because Trash had peaked over 3.8. The roster just kind of like fell apart after we found out that he couldn't play, and then me and Johnny like just decided to. Well, Johnny suggested that we just make our own team, and we just went with that. So it was me, Johnny, and Orb/Boring as the start. Then we picked up Chim, but he would later leave randomly. Just completely ditched us for no reason, other than he just didn't want to play anymore.
Well, that's a reason. That's a reason.
Yeah, I guess that's a reason. He just didn't feel like playing, so he just left without telling anyone. And then we had Climate. Climate was basically our only off-tank tryout. The other one like ghosted us, so he made the team. So he came from Not My Meta. He's now on the Habaneros. So it's me, Boring, Johnny, and Climate at this point. And then we had 3 support tryouts, and Moose played the best out of the 3, so he made it. And
Who were the other two?
What?
Who were the other 2?
Guava and Poet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kind of forgot, bro.
Okay. So Moose played the best out of those 3, so he made it. And then for DPS, Chim was gonna be our DPS player, and then he ditched us, so we had to find like another DPS player. So we tried out Crimson, Frosty, and PDK, and Frosty made it out of those 3. And that's our 6-man roster. Not planning on getting anybody else at this point. So that's the roster.
Nice. And is this anticipating any sort of meta, or is this just like amongst all roles that you've put them on, whether it be like projectile DPS, whatever DPS for that role, and then like for main tank like Arissa, Winston, Ryan, Wrecking Ball, like all of the above? Are you just trying to find the best like adaptive pick, or are you just like assuming that there'd be a meta in mind that you're building your team around? When you say they performed the best in tryouts is what I'm trying to like refer back to.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like we had 4 tryout scrims, I think, and the first 2 were really scuffed. Like one of the teams we had a tryout scrim against had like some random GM player who like claimed to be a diamond, but his profile was public, so we knew he was GM. And it was like super scuffed, and they kept teabagging us, and they all tilted us. And the first tryout scrim was pretty similar. Like we got super tilted by just like getting demolished. So that was kind of scuffed. But sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, it was just like you said that the like for specifically like the damage and support tryouts, you were like, well, they performed the best of these guys. So like, what I'm pretty much asking like, what made them the best? Were you thinking of like a specific meta that your team was gonna try to run around, or are you guys like thinking of like most adaptive comp, or maybe a specific off meta that you guys wanted to try? I don't know.
Yeah, like the main thing we wanted to look for was flexibility, I guess, because like.
Why'd you pick me up, bro?
Okay. You know you can play more tanks than just ball, but we wanted to look for like flexibility was like a big factor in the pickups, because by the time we were getting DPS players, like Frosty just accepted the invite to join the team like today, like this afternoon. So we had already heard about like the hero bans or the hero pools, sorry. So we wanted to pick up players who like picked up a lot, like played a lot of different heroes, because flexibility is like going to be a really important thing. So that's what we looked for. And for like how they performed in scrims, I mean, all the tryouts did like okay. I'd say Moose was definitely far better than the other supports we tried out. And all the DPS players played really well. Like Frosty, Crimson, PPK, they all played really well. But when it came to flexibility, like Frosty showed superiority in that category, as well as being like able to calm really well already. And we'd played with him before on Not My Meta, like me, Torb, and Climate had played with him before. so we already knew he was really good. So it was kind of a clear pick when it came to Frosty and Moose for pickups.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there any like just like the final question on this like meta or like comp creation team? Was there any like meta that you thought it could have been before the trials or like currently now that supposedly all like the pieces are in place of like your regular 6 or potentially more later down the line or less or whatever? Um, of like what would the ideal like meta we'd be going into would like best serve your team specifically. Like it doesn't have to be like right now it looks like Ryan and Diva are getting played a lot more, but it doesn't have to be like actually what meta we're going into. It could be theoretical of like, oh, if we had like a Wrecking Ball Roadhog meta with like Pharah and like Tracer or something. Like just like a completely made up meta that would be like the most fun for your team, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, I'd like some other people to talk about their favorite heroes they'd like to play.
I think it's meta, bro. Like,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Okay, please.
I was looking at anime girls. I apologize.
A man of culture.
Sure, yeah. No, the question was like if there was an ideal, it doesn't have to be meta, but like an ideal best hero in each category, and it just happened to be your best hero. What would what is that hero for you that would make that team comp? Because like I've gathered at this point like Giant Robot, he likes Doomfist. That would probably be, if not his pick, then like a high up there pick. And then like Boring likes Ball, or maybe like another hero or from someone else. And like what would be this ideal like 6-man stacked roster that happened to be meta at the same time that would like lead your team to like the new commit potentially.
Oof.
Well, what was Climate like playing? I know does he like playing Diva?
So, I think
Yeah.
I think so. I mean,
Because like if he likes playing Diva, I think like Dive would be like pretty good for us.
Yeah, honestly, like a comp not so like different from what we played in finals, like later on in finals, when we just went to comfort picks. Like we had Ball, Diva, and then a mix of like Reaper, Widow, Doom, and Junkrat, and then Lucio, Batiste. Like stuff like that is just like it's pretty easy to play, honestly. Like at a Discord tier level at least, because Discord's just basically New Harmony, so it's not going to be like insanely competitive like Discord last season. So we could get away with like running dive even if it wasn't meta, but I'd say something dive oriented would definitely be our ideal comp like as a team overall.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think a lot of players have been running dive lately and finding like way more success than you know not too long ago. So that's super cool, and I hope that you guys get yourself in a position where you can push a dive comp and do well with it. So that's cool. I like that. What are the other teams that either ones you've scrimmed or ones that you know that are constructed around a certain way are gonna fare the best and fare the worst in your opinions?
Well,
We've only scrimmed 2
yeah,
teams.
we've only scrimmed 2 teams, and one of them was Eclipsed, and then they changed up a bunch of players. So I don't really have a good idea of how good Eclipse actually are. But we scrimmed Tough Luck, and
Don't say it, bro.
I mean, I will say, I won't. It wasn't that hard to beat Tough Luck. We went 3-1, but by the time we lost map 4, but by that time we were kind of trolling, to be honest. So I mean that's like we have little insight compared to other teams probably because we've only scrimmed 2. And the Eclipse one doesn't really count, but Tough Luck, I don't know, not that impressed, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, scrims are scrims. We'll see when it gets the.
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true.
Is there any
need to
team
get
that you're looking
claps.
forward to like playing right out of the gate?
I mean,
I feel like everyone's gonna say Caliber because I feel like, oh, come
I
on,
don't care about Caliber. I want to play Prodigious tomorrow. Don't miss it, except it
I
won't
don't
be streamed.
understand why.
I don't even know the other teams. 1 second. It's like there's a list somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't get why people rate Caliber so high. Like I've never seen them play or anything, but like, are they just? Do they roll everyone in scrims
I
or
think
something?
the way
Illusion.
that it's been
I'm excited for
described
Illusion.
is like they are what would someone consider some of the best players from Harmony Tier Season 3, mixed with some like pretty reliable talent either from outside or inside the community. And I don't think anyone's saying that they're like their peak is gonna be insane. I just think people are scared of the consistency that they're able to put out. I mean, we interviewed them before, so you can like go back and watch that as either audiences or you guys and like pick apart what you think they're capable of. But I have to like give them credit where credit's due, that their confidence in being able to outperform most of the teams in the tier that early on was pretty high. That could just be like being naive because of just the lack of structure from a lot of the teams that we were talking about at the time. But I don't know. I there's no team in my mind that is head and shoulders above the other one just based on the rosters that I'm able to see right now. Obviously, when the teams all like surface more like where they get to play and we get to analyze what team is the best, that's one thing. But right now, I think everybody, or maybe it's just the team captains and GMs, have access to the player like rosters that everybody has submitted, so you can kind of see what everybody has and make from the returning players at least see what teams potentially are capable of. But obviously, until really tomorrow and then further down the line on the 28th, I think is when the actual regular season starts, is when we're going to be able to tell which teams are going to sink, which teams are going to swim, at least early on in stage 1, which is incredibly short, and I think that could be really exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as seasons go too, it's hard to judge at the beginning of a season or even in a preseason how anyone's going to do, because I know in Jalapenos last season, everyone in every team improved so drastically that I just see that same thing happening in this coming season, that even though maybe someone stumbles at the beginning, they might end up being on top by the end of the season.
Yeah, we kind of stumbled in the beginning.
Yeah, we got demolished.
That's what I was about to say. Like, everyone's jumping the gun right now from just seeing what players are going where, and they are like rate the team lower, rate the team high just because of their names. Like, they don't know fully how the team works together and their chemistry together and the play style with the new meta. And like, once the first game happens and they see the teams actually play, a lot of things are going to shift around probably.
Yeah.
Where do you see that, like, it's an excellent like segue. That's what I should start that by saying, is that like, where do you see teams that are putting all their eggs in the basket of this player performed well last season in this tier, whether it be Discord or Harmony or wherever they may have come from, if you have knowledge of other communities or just met someone on the competitive ladder? And where do you see teams that move away from that strategy of just pick up names that everybody knows for either whether they actually performed well or if they were just popular in the community or not? It doesn't really matter. It's just names. It's like, the popularity contest, over a team that's like technically probably less proficient or maybe drastically less proficient, but can consistently like synergize. Like, where, at what point does balance favor one team over the other, I guess is the question I'm asking.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like the big names, have major egos, and I feel like if you get 2 or like 3 of them kind of people on the same team, that can cause a lot of issues for the bigger names. On one team, so like the one team they like look at smaller, like no names or didn't have that good of a season last time, can like outperform them because of the other people's egos get too high, and then they start arguing with each other sometimes. Because it happens. That happened a few times with some teams I was part of before, where egos got in the way of everyone's playstyle and communications, and just made it change drastically in that match.
Yeah, for sure. Like this, like picking up players who are like known and stuff, like that's smart and all that, but like they're not always going to be like the best players at the end of the season. Like, the Jalapenos, just I hate to just use this as an example, but a lot of us were like completely like new to the community. I mean, I joined from like the Overwatch Discord. I saw an LFT thing, I joined, and Mallard hadn't played before, and like both of us, like I hit Masters, Mallard hit GM. Like, it's not all about just like the name recognition of people who have been in the community for a long time, because like people who have been in like the same tier for like multiple seasons, like that doesn't show much improvement, to be honest. Like, it's really difficult to improve for Discord tier players compared to Harmony tier players, because I think I was watching like your Caliber interview and you were talking about that or something, where Harmony tier players always have more room to improve. So like names from Harmony tier can be like really important, like people who have like risen up the ranks, gone from like gold or plat to diamond or masters. but it's not always the best.
Right, yeah, that was something I harped on back in the Caliber interview, and I've kind of stayed true to that, like, idea of, I think the Harmony tier of Season 3 had, like, a lot of advantages pushing themselves forward, because not only did they have, like, lower SR that gets, like, even greatly more affected by, like, coordinated team play, so if you take, like, your Harmony tier team, consistent 6-stack, you're starting 6, potentially, even though starting doesn't really work in this community, it's meant to be rotated, but most teams have like a starting 6 that they relied on. They like rotated like players in and out. And you take that into comp, you're more likely to climb higher over a shorter period of time than say the Discord tier. That's not true for everybody, but I think we can probably all sit back and agree that it's easier to climb higher from a lower point than it is when you're already like either 500 or maybe even 800 SR higher. And I thought that was cool because it's like that's pushing talent upward. That's adding more talent into the pool that like the community was trying to initially create back when there wasn't as many tiers. And it's like everybody kind of being on this even playing field, getting better together rather than this huge skill disparity between like the top and the bottom. And I think now even Harmony tier has more advantages because there's three tiers now, but I think more so it's like all those Harmony tier players and the returning Discord tier players now have that same advantage that the Harmony tier had last season with the Tranquility tier, where it's like a very obvious step forward, and you have teams to specifically look at and players to kind of emulate that are more within the realm of like possibilities with your play, rather than like streamers and owl players that are just so head and shoulders above what we're currently capable of playing in our tier. Like I get everybody's really good at certain things like subjectively, but if you put us in perspective of like the top players, we like don't even scratch the surface of what they're capable of playing, and that's just
Yeah,
like
for
an
sure.
honest assessment.
Mhm.
I think everybody can attest to that, and that's why I appreciate having these players that are only within like 500 or 800 SR that like I can see what they're doing and understand it way more and make a tangible adjustment to my style of play rather than look at the LA Gladiators pull out their crazy Widow strat on King's Row and understand like
Yeah.
understand exactly how they were able to think of a strat like that and then understand fully that there's no way a team could effectively replicate it because everyone's familiar with that kind of cheese strat now. So it's like it's crazy, and I love that level of outplay that Owl and like other like tier 2 and upper like GGNA tournaments are able to give us, but I much prefer what the community has to offer in the sense of like tangible improvement that is made simplified by having a consistent group of players at your disposal that want to improve, and you can join a team with. Theoretically anybody has the possibility of joining the Heckin Habaneros or Prodigious or Caliber if they really like put their minds to it and like show up, do well, and like be active in the community. Don't be mean and stuff like that, which is I think what most captains and stuff are looking for. Just like don't be a jerk, play your role, be active in comms, and you'll probably make a scrim and make a tryout scrim and stuff like that. So I appreciate that, and it sounds like your team has pushed that idea forward too, which is good. There's a couple teams out there that I'm not sure. That's why I do these interviews, because some of these teams from the outside look kind of gatekeepish, which could be problematic. But I like when I meet a team that isn't that way. So thank you guys for that. But
Yeah, dude.
more on to new content rather than rehashing my same speeches. Which is the preseason tournament last season in Discord was like completely the opposite of how it ended, right? Because we played like I can't speak for everybody because I don't remember off the top of my head easily, but we played Frantic Lava Cats. I know they did really well, but like they didn't they didn't do that well because they never played. And
didn't
we played
exist,
them right? Yeah, we beat them in preseason, and then immediately they stopped being part of the community. Like it just didn't happen for them.
You
And
boomed them, bro.
I guess. I don't know.
Oh
it,
my
it sounded like
God.
it was something different, though. It sounded like there was a lot of internal trouble, and they were being mean in the community and stuff like that, so that was the main reason. I don't think we had really anything to do with it. And then we played Meteors, and we beat them, and then we went on to Alt 4 and lost, which is, like, completely the opposite of how the season went. Like, Meteors went nuts. Like, there was nobody who was like, Meteors aren't going to ruin Prodigious during their, like, season 13, like, I think it was, like, week 13 or week 12 game. Something crazy like that. And then Alt F4, towards the end of the season, were like, they were technically higher seeded than us, but I think a lot of people were like doubting their capabilities because like their recent spell of like kind of only getting wins from the teams dropping. So we were able to like successfully win that game in the postseason, but not during the preseason. So there was a lot of parity towards the end for specific stuff, not obviously with like commit and tough luck and one last ride as much that were still like really dominant, and then Eclipse towards the end, which they had a lot of parity, so they're interesting. But what are your predictions for teams that you think are going to have this strong start, maybe just because of like their names on it or the name of the team, but who in the end is you would think to like pull it out? And obviously, since you guys have mentioned before that you don't particularly know who's on each team, you could shout out specific players if that's a little bit easier, since I assume that you guys are pretty comfortable with some of the players in the community and what they're capable of.
Yeah.
What's the question again?
Okay, I'll start and you can like build off of me, Torb. So, like a team that I think is gonna do pretty like not insanely well in the preseason, but could do better over time is Tough Luck, in my opinion. Like I said, we scrimmed them, we beat them. Well, I wasn't too impressed, but I think Capital's my boy, and he has like a huge drive to improve. Like he's like when he was back on Vitamin C and stuff, like we watched like part of World Cup together, like through the viewer, and we would like spectate the support players and see what they were doing to try and get better. So I definitely think Capital's gonna get like a lot better, and he's on Tough Luck. And Tough Luck has like Smugs as their coach.
They have good coaching.
Yeah, and coach is okay. Kuhn is a great coach. And I think coaching staff is really important. Like for last season, we had Spoods, and Spoods was awesome for us.
Spoods is an amazing coach.
Yeah.
I mean, we're higher SR, and he's still an amazing coach for us, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nice. I like how SR kind of transcended still the impact that the coach is able to have. That's cool. So yeah, Tough Luck from you. And any other specific answers from you guys? It doesn't have to be teams. It can be, like I said, specific players that you think are going to be the ones to improve. Kind of like how he was saying Capital was kind of his example.
I think overtime's gonna improve. They won't drop out this time.
That's a safe bet.
Hopefully not.
Big improvement. That's Someone go next, please.
Do you know a lot about overtime? If you're able to.
I know Billy Gott's like apparently like really good. Goated on the tank, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Goaty's pretty cool. Good player. I definitely agree with you that team has a lot of potential and could do really well. And yeah, of course, better than what they did last season, not being in there. It's cool that they're able to still make the jump with a lot of the Harmony tier teams and bump up to Discord, even though they weren't in the community.
I was really hyped to like face them in Harmony tier. I was really disappointed when they like had to drop out.
I wanted to face Spare Change, bro.
So it was the start of the season. Everyone's like, "Oh, Careless Pan was the thing to beat," and overtime just went like, what was it, like 2-3 with them, dude? So I was like, "Damn, overtime must be pretty fucking good." So I was like, "Can't wait." Then they kind of left Peppa hands.
Rest in peace. Yeah, I wanted completely like unrelated, but related to Torb's point. Like, I really wanted to face Spare Change. Like, Spare Change were on their redemption arc, and
bro, I wanted to go against Chimp, bro.
Yeah, Chimp, Mr. Smurf, the ruiner of Spare Change.
Unfortunate.
I wanted to be the villain that brought down Spare Change in their turnaround run, their playoff run where they barely squeak in. Like, I wanted to be that villain, but unfortunately they had a agent on the inside who tore it all apart before I could. Made me very sad.
Interesting. Kind of villainous behavior.
Yes,
I think
I'm toxic.
Yeah, you are. Going back to the question, I don't have a specific team, but I kind of have a hope. I hope that this season we have less turnover with people leaving and like I hope teams are able to find like a stability in their roster, because I think that's one of the reasons why Jalapenos did really well is that we had a whole season of playing with each other. And I think that's why I think this is a hard question to answer, because I think if teams stay together, it's anyone's game if they are trying to improve. And like by the end of the season, we could just have people that you may not have even known about at the beginning just crushing it because they've learned to just flow well together. So I know that's not like a good answer in terms of a specific team. That's just what I hope as a community we are able to find a more balanced kind of turnover rate for the players.
Oh, and like follow up on what he said, like if people lose, like people shouldn't get too like bummed over an L. Taking like losing to a team, like even if it's like a small team that you don't like know how they play and you can't like really counter it through the matches, or a top tier team, if you lose, don't get hurt over that. It's improvement, and you got to learn from like what they played and figure out what you got to do to do better to counter that style. It's just like it's a way of learning your problems of that game. It's just a way to learn to be better as a team, and then work on it and work harder and improve. And then like, don't break your team apart just because you lost and you're like bummed. Like, oh, I don't want to play no more because we can't win against a small team. Small teams sometimes are surprising, and like they can play crazy strats and it works. And it's just a way to figure out we can't sleep on that kind of team and that style of playing.
I remember, to your point, I remember last season there were a couple times where we would lose, and Spooder would just be like, you know what, I'm glad you guys lost when you did, because you'll learn more from this loss and what you need to improve on than had you won this match. So I think you're totally right, Frosty.
Yeah, DDoS really roughed us up in week
DDoS
12. Week 12, like I wasn't trying to throw that match, but I was hard for it. I was mad tilted versus DDoS. DDoS broke my mental, but I think that really like helped me at least to realize that we're still a team that can lose, because we were on a big winning streak at the time. Like we beat teams like Karma, who were like super hyped up, and then we lost to DDoS. I'm like, we lost to DDoS, bro. But like it really helped me at least realize we're still vulnerable, even if I thought we were the best team at that time, but we lost to DDoS. I'm like, oh no. But I think that helped me at least like turn around my mental, realize every game is still losable, but every game is also winnable. So,
and I think your
helps.
positive attitude was why we won the finals. Because I remember like we were down 3-1, and I remember Needle was just like, "All right, guys, we got this. Reverse sweep, we do it." And like you didn't say a negative thing the entire night, and I think your positive attitude and us learning from that loss is what allowed us to stay in check for finals. And I think so for any team going forward, it doesn't really matter where you are or how you place or how preseasons go or your win-loss ratio. If you can learn from that match, it'll make you a better player and a better team.
Yeah, for sure. Never boom yourself.
Yeah, like even if you get close to the point of booming yourself, like just calm down and just have fun. Like don't get too serious and like hurt yourself over it, because you're playing with a bunch of friends, and it's just meant to be fun and improve together and not be aggravated at one another.
True. At the end of the day, it's just a game.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a good
Nice.
definite like tangent on some things that we can think about as a community. On Johnny's original point though, I feel like that has a lot of substance to it. We can talk about it. Hopefully your all's opinion on it. But turnover, right? That was a big issue, and we don't know if it's solved, right? Everyone thinks it is because there's a new system in place, and I personally like am really looking forward to seeing how many teams actually decide to stay with us, if not all, through like I think it's 8 weeks, with 5 being the first one and 3 being the second, stage. And
Oh, is that how it works?
yeah, well, it's 5 stage of completely random seeding, right? And you're just gonna play against whatever team. You're not gonna play all of the teams, right? You're only gonna play 5 of the other teams, which is potentially problematic, because then you don't get to see everybody towards the end, which I think was like a lot of the fun of season 3, is that you get to try out a game against everybody. But it's gonna be interesting because you take those first 5 games, and that's what determines your seeding for stage 2, which is the important stage, right? Because you're gonna go into stage 2, and that's what's gonna decide whether you're in playoffs or not based on your spot. And you're never really out, right? If you're still in the bottom pool of in stage 2 of the 3 pools, you still have a chance to get out if you're the top seed, right? But if you're in the top pool, even if you do really bad, you can still make playoffs. It's just if you're the worst in it, you don't get it. So it's just improving your chances if you have a strong start. So these strong starts teams that are able to get 5 wins off the bat and maybe get like a fortunate record are probably going to have low turnover, right? Because everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, we have a chance of like making it to playoffs. But then when you actually get to your stage get to stage 2 and get in your pool is when it's make or break time. If you're genuinely in it, you're just setting yourself up for the first 5 weeks. So what do you think about this new schedule is going to aid in the turnover rate that Johnny was talking about? Or what do you think will hinder it? Or what do you think was the big factor last season? I think a lot of people talked about just the length, but go in depth as the players of what was either egging you on, because I mean, none of you guys did it, but you guys saw a lot of your friends and peers do it as well. And I'm sure, like myself, I was like trying to empathize with like a lot of the teams like Frantic Lava Cats and Renovatio and all these other teams that are just dropping, and you're like, well, I can see why after thinking about it for a sec. So I guess talk more about turnover, because I think that was really important. I think it's gonna be really definitive for season 4.
I mean, I didn't pay too much attention to Discord tier myself, but like an example of spare change, like spare change, they had to get rid of their Smurf and the 2 players who were like associated with their Smurf, and so there were only like 3 players left, and they got like all their wins revoked for like a certain time.
Well, that's
They had-
just like mental breaking, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like who would want to join a team that has no chance of being in playoffs anymore because they just didn't. But like with the new format, I guess like every team can still make it in, even if you're in the bottom group. Like only one of those teams gets eliminated. So it is more all inclusive, and I think it will help with burnout. But I mean, I think at the same time, it's gonna make it less competitive in a way. Like part of the system, one of the things like on the podcast they said is like it's gonna prevent games from being complete like roles. Like Vitamin C versus I don't know pacified pythons. Just 4-0 easy or whatever it was. Actually, I think that was 3-1. It's a bad example. us versus Boop. We 4-0'd Boop, even when we were bad. So, I mean, like there are always going to be those games, and only eliminating 2 teams before playoffs, like there's still going to be that. But I think there's still some flaws in the new system, but it will help with turnover for sure.
I feel like a lot of turnovers were from the way, I don't want to like target it like that, but the way some teams got treated after some teams kind of got like treated differently after like losing a certain way to a certain team or players on the way they acted, and then like once people like talk about it a little more and they have to drop a player quits, and that team has a bad picture from one person acting a certain way, and no one really wants to join that team sometimes, and like the team just has nothing else to do but fold. But like now, I think the way it is, I think it might be a lot better from teams folding out, and like it'll be a little more calmer the way it is.
I think to add to what you said, Frosty, I think if that was one of the main factors as to why people were bouncing, then I think there's a lot of onus on the community then to kind of change our mental attitude about how teams and players are treated. And so like a lot of the turnover rate, if it really did come down to that, like, play schedule aside, let's say that all those issues have been fixed by this new format, and I hope there's a lot more hope. I still think that if there is that turnover rate, then maybe the community needs to look inward and be like, all right, are we a welcoming, positive mental attitude community? And if so, how can we help these people who are going through difficult times?
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. I think it's an interesting point. I know a lot of people personally that are in like the esports like mental health field and trying to pursue that kind of stuff. And I think it's super interesting when you dive into like a player's like mentality, right? Because that's in a game like this, rather than like traditional sports, your mentality makes or breaks your performance, because it's the direct link to what you're using to perform well. So I think when you get boomed, for lack of a better term, um, you put yourself at risk of like furthering that boom further than like the initial like, oh, I just took the L, I'm upset, which is the intended reaction that you the I guess not intended, but like the healthy reaction. You're not supposed to feel the best when you lose, but it's those who take those losses and learn from it and are in a positive environment enough so that they can learn healthy, and rather than just like you said, you weren't supposed to lose, or you weren't expected to lose to DDoS, right? But what does that image, or what does that like the way that you phrase that say about DDoS? Does that mean their win is less impactful for them, or they should like, or the community should think of it less? Like that's an issue that I thought of, especially in Harmony tier, where like there seemed to be after every win or loss a lot of like over analysis onto like, oh, this team, even though I would just put in something that like I don't think happened, but like let's say that Karma lost to like Boop, and you're like, wow, Karma's washed, and you're like, well, that, do you understand the implications of saying that about like a group of like humans, right? Like they're not like just robots or like anything that's just gonna be like, oh, all right, whatever. Like people get affected by that kind of stuff, and it's how we take those like criticisms and stuff like that that like make or break us as like humans, let alone players. But I think that having these 5 weeks initial and these 3 weeks, you just kind of look dumb, right? If you just say like, "Oh, this team's done," right? This team is terrible after these 5 weeks before they're even put into a tier that is more like closely knitted with people of similar skill level within their own like within the Discord, Harmony, Transcendence, or whatever tiers. And I think that provides a lot of like relief, right? Because then you're not like going into week 12 as spare chains with no chance of winning, and you just feel like garbage, right? Because the odds are against you. Everyone doesn't believe in you, and you're just like, why even put forth the effort when at the end of the day, even if we win, we still are going to be treated as such. So I think that that's an excellent point that this new system provides like a little bit more relief from that kind of mentality. And I don't blame anybody in the community specifically for that kind of behavior, right? Because it's like it's what's incentivized by the community we're in. I wouldn't say that our community is the best when it comes to like promoting like positive mentality, right? It's mainly just for like a way to blow off steam, and a way that you do that is occasionally being toxic and stuff. So whatever. But I don't think we're also the worst tier, like worst community at it. There's definitely communities that are only about being toxic. It's like
Oh yeah.
it's just booming each other to the point where the only one left standing, which is like hyper toxic. And I don't think any of us are looking to climb the competitive ladder at the expense of someone else, right? I don't think that's how anyone thinks. It's more of passive stuff, right? It's people not understanding the gravity of what they're saying to another person. And I think that becomes lessened when you haven't played them, when there's no chance you're going to play them, when you're going to get put into a tier of people who are similar skill to you. So when the top players looking down that are like, I can't believe we have to spend this week preparing for a game against a team that has no chance of making it, and we're so much better than them that we shouldn't have to, right? And after 5 weeks of that initial like period of you finding out how good you are as a team, you never have to. You're not put in those situations where you have to continuously prove yourself to theoretically no benefit. If you're like the vitamin C, right, where you have to play against all these teams that the only thing that can happen is that they upset you and you look bad rather than like looking better from getting another win. It was the same thing with Commit, except they never like ended up losing, right? Where they're like, if Commit lose to Meteors, they're worse. If they Commit lose to Eclipse, they're worse. And it's like, I think now with the more potential for parity and stuff like that, I think it's super cool. And I think it's cool that Johnny, you brought up like having that potential of like low turnover where everybody can kind of just prove themselves, get on with their day, do well, kind of stuff like that. I don't know. You guys can dive more into whatever you want, but like I think that's a cool takeaway. That looks better than season 3. And it wasn't that season 3 was bad, but it's like the fact that I think the admins are constantly trying to improve what the community is capable of doing is very neat, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, the admins definitely do a lot with the community. Like all the changes and stuff like that. I don't know. I think they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like, and then even the ones behind the scenes. I think it was great that they shouted out Door on the podcast, because like the people that aren't the players, the people that aren't the admins you're talking about, or the big community members like Juke and stuff like that that we're not talking about as much, are definitely like putting in, if not more, but at least a similar amount of effort and making this like they're not even paid for it, which is even crazier, right? You just think about that for a second. They're like, these guys are just putting in hours of their day just because it's fun, right? And that's super cool. And I can say
Yeah.
the same for like you guys as the players, because like I go back and watch. I know not everybody does this, but I go back and watch like Harmony tier games, or Discord tier games from last season. And I'm just like, that was a pretty cool game. It was good to watch. So, and
I
hopefully
mean,
see
going
more
back
of
to
that.
the thing on you said on Door, I've like he's gotten paid for like casting gigs before, dude. Just the fact that like he has these opportunities to like get paid to do it and still wants to do trank stuff. That's just like that's nice, bro.
Oh, definitely. Because I mean, he has a pretty good resume. So
Yeah,
he's been doing a
pretty
lot.
good at casting.
Oh, definitely. He's a good shoutcaster for sure. I wouldn't put him on analyst. He'd overpower the shoutcaster.
His brain's too big.
Yeah, he just has too much he needs to say about every interaction, which makes him a perfect shoutcaster. He just wants to just spew it all out in word vomit, rather than like just imagining Doron analysis where just any chance the shoutcaster like gives him to like where they take a breath or something, he just screams. He's like, wait, I had to say this for like minutes. So I like his style where it's just like he runs the show and it works for him because he's like good at it. So I'm appreciative of Door. Super cool guy. But
Yeah.
more on that, I think we're gonna have a lot more casted games, right? Because now we have a whole new tier. We have a different casting schedule of like Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. So what like I know that you guys aren't the captains of your team, or not like the coach of your team, right? But I think that's very advantageous to us as players, well, you as players, and of using that as a resource, right? So you can go back and check out these games week to week, especially in this like weird meta that we're going to find ourselves in, of having hero bans in one spot, no hero bans in another spot, and just all over the place of competitive trank, OWL, tier 2 play, all this random stuff, GGNA, all being in different spots. There's so much Overwatch we're going to be able to watch, it's all different. And then we put ourselves into the position that we are with how the trank's set up, and having VODs as a resource, I think, is going to be more important than it was in last season. Because I don't know of too many teams that went out and reviewed too much of the VODs. Because, I mean, whether they weren't structured the way you'd want them to, being like more entertainment based rather than like fixated on a player and styles that you can get from like actual VOD review. But that kind of stuff seems more interesting and viable right now. So, what do you guys plan on using, or if you even plan on using that as a resource? What kind of improvements, what kind of knowledge, what kind of anything do you guys plan on getting from that?
I mean, last season on Jalapenos, our coach Spoods would like go through like every VOD he could find of like our next enemy. I think it was like super important because we got insight into what they play, how they calm, you know, like who the weak links are, who the carries are. Like you can find out like all of that, like people just streaming their games, as well as the feature matches. Like I think that we're definitely going to use that as well, and it was definitely a big help for us on Jalapenos. Was being able to see the live casts and stuff of all the games.
I'm really excited for shared replays too. I don't know when they're gonna drop that, but that's gonna be awesome for a team environment to be able to go and be like, all right, let's go and walk through this replay together as a team and dissect what happened. I mean, I think that's going to be very helpful, even just for a player. That's helpful to go through my old replays, but to do it a team, I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think that there's already like a few resources out there that are like rudimental versions of that, not like licensed through Blizzard, that a lot of teams use and a lot of coaches use. But I think every time Blizzard goes and sees a third party application of something and goes ahead to like try it themselves, it always turns out like really easy. I mean, sometimes at first it's a little scuffed, but I think that they eventually narrow it down and make it work. And I'm excited to see what's in store for that too, because that opens up a whole new way of reviewing, especially at our level. I think like OWL and tier 2 teams have the kind of resources to get the knowledge without needing Blizzard to kind of pave the way for them. But thinking of like an Overwatch League viewer at our disposal for like Trank games, I feel like that can really unlock like real genuine strategy going into games, right? Rather than just like, oh, we're going to try this comp on this map because it worked in competitive ladder, or it's like you can go and see those crazy outplays like the Gladiators did in season 1 of just like, we know this should work against this team because we understand how they set up and we understand the strengths of our players and what we're capable of doing on the fly and coming up with these crazy hidden strategies, which is what I look for in like this kind of environment, right? That's what drew me in, is like watching OWL teams and like higher like teams back during Apex season 1 and 2 and stuff like that pull out these crazy strategies that you'd never think to do in comp. You're like, nah, that wouldn't work. You have 3 seconds to talk to everybody before the game. You can't do it. But then when you have these resources at your disposal where you can really think about what you're able to do and what the other team is potentially going to do for these massive outplays, I think that's really cool. And I hope that you guys do some of that. I hope everybody does some of that. But what kind of cool strats have you guys? I don't want to hear about what you guys are doing now because I don't want you guys to spill any strats. Obviously, that'd be detrimental to the future in your future career Discords tier. But what kind of strats have you guys tried, whether it be on ladder or last season, that either panned out, didn't, and they just seemed off the wall and are easily memorable just because of how like zany they were?
I think anytime we put boring on ball, it's easy win. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
The thing I was thinking about was our Numbani strat.
Yeah, Numbani strat. Okay, so on Numbani, what we did last season, whenever we had Numbani, is we would go, like, when we were on attack, we did attack Bastion, and it just worked. Like, we copied it from we streamed some random team, and they did it against us, and we got rolled, and we were like, we should do that, and so we did, like, the same thing, and it worked really well, like, and we pulled it out in the playoffs game against Maelstrom on Kings Row. We were down 0-2, and we were in like overtime on Kings Row. It was 3-3, and I think it was Torb or Boring said like, go do Numbani strat, like which is just a code for attack Bastion for us, because we do it on Numbani, and it was a really fun strategy. It's really cheesy, and it was really effective for us on the whole last season on Jalapenos.
That's super cool. I'm glad you guys had a strat like that. I think a lot of teams do that. I know we definitely did back in season 3 Prodigious, where we would scrim a team and see a strat, and it would just like completely roll us. And we're like, well, shoot, okay, let's go in the lab and figure out what we can do to either improve upon the strat or just raw copy it. And that's really fun when you're able to just like know a strat that, whether it will work every time, but have something to fall back on that your entire team's just like ready to go for, is super reassuring and fun. And that's super cool. Hopefully we see some more Numbani strats come out of you guys. Whether it be actually that one or just in the same vein of a wacky strat that you guys can just say and just snap to it.
Probably not Bastion anymore. Rest in peace, Bastion.
Rest in peace, Shields, to be honest.
Shields are gone. Oh.
Yeah, Shields are for sure
But not
resting
ball
in many
shields.
pieces.
Ball shields, those are for me.
Yeah. When you feed relentlessly into a May and a Sombra.
Yeah.
May Sombra Brig, yeah, ball makes it through that.
Oh yeah, Sauna too.
If anyone
Get the
could play
sleep.
through it, it'd be Torb, in my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, whenever there's a May, he instantly starts whining.
I think, yeah.
That's when you mute him in Discord.
fucking
You know,
hate
well,
I understand. As a ball
garbage
player, I get it.
character.
I get it. Because, I mean, in my mind, too, it's like top ball players around. It's like Among, Boring, Yeetle. It's like, come on. Like, it's the big names. But I think we're coming towards the 8 o'clock mark, so we can kind of start wrapping up on any closing, either like statements you guys want, or if you guys want to call out a specific team or player that you guys are planning on playing or seeing or just expecting things from. You have the opportunity now.
Prodigious.
The Prodigious,
Oh.
yeah.
Now that is a team.
They are definitely a team.
Yes,
Tranquility.
that is true. Team that we must demolish on our path to victory in the preseason tournament. Unfortunately for you, JuCoHi.
Not unfortunately for me.
It's gotta happen.
I have no horse in that race, right? I don't.
I mean, you're GM, right?
Yeah, but I know it's a lot less personal when I don't get whomped if we lose.
Oh, that's true.
It's one way to put it.
Yeah,
Not
I know,
your
but
fault.
I got my boys working on something, so we'll see what we can do, right?
He's
But this
putting
is
the
all.
entire team in the lab.
This is we're gonna be in the lab the entire preseason. We're not gonna show anything too crazy because we wanna keep our cool strats in the back. But this'll be fun. I love the preseason for this exact thing of just being able to test wacky stuff against teams, learn a little bit about everybody, have a lot of fun.
It's a funny way to say sandbag, but that's cool.
Yeah. No, okay, you got it. At least you understood.
All I gotta say is watch out for the Torb Hammer.
Hell yeah, dude.
No.
This will be my first season in Trank. I just have one thing to say, like a message to the entire league, if you will.
Oh, no.
Don't teabag Moose. No
The
teabagging.
moose is loose.
Okay. He's gonna be in your backline on Lucio, just like in our games. When he...
Needle can testify. Yesterday in Pugs, I redded him at least like
Yeah, and I slept you.
10 times, like once, and I killed you at least 5 times.
Alright, sure you did.
Yeah, Moose and Pugs, resident sleeper, dude.
Oh, just keep him there though. Like we don't wanna we don't wanna wear him out for when he can't be good in Pugs on these silly games. We don't want all that. No.
Yeah.
At least I'm not as bad as Kuna in Pugs.
Okay.
You just called out your own coach.
Very cool.
Unfortunate, dude.
Well, we'll call it on that. I think the moose is loose is something we can all have nightmares about equally. So, awesome. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for everybody who came out to the stream. Anybody watching this post, obviously don't know who you are, but very cool that you guys gave it a shot. All right, I guess just say your sayonaras, my guys.
All right. I don't know what to say.
Hey, follow me at TTV.
Okay. No.
He's a sellout.
No moose.